Halo 5 has been out for around almost 3 weeks now. And, many reviews have been going on, many of which are positive. Some here and there negative. And, I see people already on the posts and stuff. Well, not the comments, but just overall contacting me going like, where's your review of Halo 5? Where's your thoughts of the game? Well, I have made my first impressions, but that was more just personal bias of what I thought of the gameplay, rather than the overall carefully assessment review. And, I just wanted to make sure I had some time to really consider. I didn't want it where I felt like my review would be blinded through biasm or just the sheer newness of it. So, with that being said, I'm now making my review of Halo 5 Guardian, so, let's get started, I guess. So, Halo 5 has launched, and the game is really good. It's highly polished, and it's well made by terms of the studio. However, I will be honest with you, this is not gonna be the Halo game you remember. The game has changed in significant ways. But, as I depicted before, they've changed them correctly. Unlike Halo 4, this game has really tried hard to really balance out the proper old and new factors. And it does it really well here. But, in terms of the feel of Halo, at its core, it is Halo. Maybe at least in spirit, but it's not by terms of the basic mechanics. The mechanics have significantly changed from its basic formula. The reason Halo used to thrive is because of its basic mechanics mixed with complex set of options. Well, Halo 5 takes it the opposite. Halo 5 thrives because of complex-based gameplay with more straightforward set of capabilities and options available. And, it's not really, by terms of what the goals are, it's not a Halo. It is not, at least by the development factor. Is it a Halo game by spirit? Yes, but not by sure gameplay. But just because a game does, this game is very different from Halo, like the classic Halo. The feel is different, the play is different, and in many ways, really the only thing that's really the same, really, besides the art, like the graphic style, or design, or whatever, is really just the basic mechanics set up, such as the long kill times, the headshots, the arena style setup with map control. All of that is the basic foundations of Halo's setup, but 343 significantly has changed the gunplay and the movement. And, it changes it to where it doesn't really feel like the big Halo anymore. But just because this game doesn't necessarily completely feel like Halo, does not mean it automatically feels like something else. People want to compare this game to COD or Destiny, or in particular COD, but it feels nothing like Call of Duty. Halo 5 is its own unique experience. There's no other game that's gonna give you the same scratch of an itch that Halo 5 gives. Okay, not COD, not Destiny, not Battlefield, not Titanfall, heck, and in some ways not even previous Halos. Halo 5 is its own unique set experience, and by not at least acknowledging it is really just a shame. It's really somewhat ignorant. So, but like I said, is this game good? Well, the basic mechanics are fun. They're really set up, and now as for the maps, people have complained that the maps don't feel like traditional Halo maps. Well, I have to say, thank goodness, because this game, in a sense, is not traditional Halo. Okay, you have to consider that. Yes, the maps aren't memorable. Okay, they're good maps, but they're not gonna be memorable. They're not the next Halo 2 maps, but they do their job. They're good design maps that complement the gameplay. and that's what all it needed to do. So in retrospect, that's the overall goal setup. And the general prosperity of this game is that, unfortunately though, while I can say the basic mechanics are really well polished, I cannot say the same about its content. You know, 343 has clearly demonstrated the point of where two games, in order to innovate, you can only really change up two things. Change what you can play or how you can play it. And 343 has clearly changed the way you played the game, not so much what you're playing. So what will you be carrying your new set of abilities and new style of gameplay in? Well, honestly, not much. The game does lack content, but before I get into that, I do want to get back to the Spartan abilities. They feel good. They're well made, they're well integrated, and like I said, they're not base mechanics ripped off from other shooters. And then if you want more in-depth proof to that, watch my Halo 5, I think it's my Believe in Halo 5 video. Watch that video and it will show you everything you need to know upon my points. But that being said, things like Smart Scope and stuff, like I said, people want to point at the little things like ADS and Sprint, saying that Halo is automatically turning into a COD game. And that is, like I said, somewhat ignorant. Because to me, accusing a game of being a COD emulator because it has Sprint or ADS is just as unfair as saying any game without those features is a Halo emulator. It's just as unfair to say that. And honestly, that is the general presence of this matter. But like I said, it does not behave like traditional ADS. Like I said, there's no penalty to hip fire. Your movement is the same even with the Smart Scope. And not just that, but you descope when you get shot at. Essentially, it's just a reskin of the classic Zoom that we all know. Now that being said, it is a downgrade. Okay, it is clear that it is there to cater to those who are so desperate to an ADS that they cannot stand playing any game without it. Okay, it's clear that it's made for that, and all the Halo fans that don't care, like that don't give a crap, have to suffer now through this less good version of the zoom feature. You know, like I said, I find some zooms, such as on the Magnum and stuff, to be atrocious. Same with the Carbine. The Carbine, in my opinion, is probably the most atrocious zoom that any Halo game has ever had. And it's all because of the Smart Scope. But that being said, like I said, it's not game breaking. Is it a downgrade? Yes, but is it game breaking? No. But, you know, as for the game, it is lacking content. Okay, the maps, like I said, it ships with 21 maps if you include the remixes and forge maps, but it's like many of the maps have similarity traits to each other, especially the breakout maps. The breakout maps feel very, very similar to each other, to the point where sometimes I feel like I'm playing the same map even though I'm not. And as well as there's lacking game modes. Because, you know, Halo 5 is only shipping with 3 game modes. 3. Okay, that's 1/3 of what Halo 3 shipped with. Okay, now I get technically with every other mode just being variants, which is Slayer, Capture the Flag, and territories. That's it. That's like well, technically Stronghold, but that's nothing more. That could have been nothing more but a variant of territories. Same with Capture the Flag, which is really just a variant multi-flag. Like, really, it is lackluster in content. So, that's it for the arena part of it. So, what about Warzone? After all, how is 343's new game mode? And, you know, does it fare up? And regretfully, I already told you before, like, you know, it does lack content. And people say, you haven't done Warzone too much and stuff, but that also adds a lot of content. I'm like, well, I gotta ask, what if you don't like Warzone? Okay, I'm not saying I don't enjoy Warzone as a mode, but I find it a terrible replacement to Big Team Battle. Big Team Battle represented a cold heart that inspired many shooters with it, where an 8v8 mode could feel like an epic scale warfare, with so many unique elements to it. You know, with capture the flag territories, invasion, etc. It was assault. It was all its unique experiences within all that, with variants of that one mode. And it was awesome because of that. But Warzone, there's only 2 modes for the Warzone category, Warzone and Warzone Assault. But really, Warzone Assault is nothing more but Warzone, except with without the AI, and just the main thing is bases. That's all it is. And I find it very lackluster. The game does lack content, especially the lack of Forge. I find very bad. It's unacceptable to me. And you know, we can't let 343 get away with this. We can't let them constantly just, you know, ship game with half the amount of content that Halo 1 had, or a third of the content Halo 3 had. It's not acceptable, to the point where I find it nearly intolerable in some areas. So, the game does lack content, and it's really just a shame. Now, but like I said, in many ways though, they're doing this on purpose in some ways, but it's just like the game lacks content, but they're focusing in different areas. They're changing the gameplay up. Like I said, instead of focusing on what you're playing, they're focusing on how you play it. And now despite my issues, but you know, now let's talk about the campaign for a minute. The campaign is short, the story is lacking, and all that. The gameplay is very fun. In fact, very fun. It's a million times better than Halo 4's campaign by far, at least by gameplay. I couldn't say the same with story, but the gameplay was really great. And you know, but that being said, it was almost the shortest Halo campaign, even though it claimed to be twice as long as Halo 4. And the story was lackluster. There was only 3 chief missions, and the rest being lock or non-combat missions, which was a kind of a shame. But that's around it. I'll make a campaign one later. But the point is, back to the modes. The modes are lacking, okay? And I really thought this would have like the most modes, the most variety, and the most content, considering it's the first Halo on the next gen platforms. But even though it turns out that it has almost the least, which I find a bit, like I said, it's unacceptable. It's very lackluster. And just because they say, oh, it's coming later, that shouldn't excuse things. We can't let companies get away with that just because they promise to add it in later, because then they're always gonna do that, and that's gonna be torture on our parts. Now, I get near the end of this video kind of turned negative, but that being said, I would like to give my final thoughts. This is a very great and well polished game. It's really well made, but really it's because it's an individual achievement. People want to compare this to the Halos because it is a Halo, but it's like, in my opinion, the less you compare these to the previous Halos, the less you try and compare the content and all that, and say basic gameplay. 343 has gone correct of changing the basic gameplay to where maybe it may have changed the legacy of Halo that came before, but in doing so, it can make it where this game can be loved for a different reason. And you know, like I said, the less you compare it to the past Halos, the more fun you'll have. I don't think a rating's necessary, as I think most of you have simple preferences of what you want. But in my opinion, I would recommend this game even despite its issues, because it's well polished and well made. Thanks for watching, and peace.